And to begin, he has a bit of clown in him. When American comedian Darryl Lenox stands up on the comedy stage, he reveals his extremely keen sense of observation about the slightly absurd ways we live our lives. Stay with us to meet funny man Darryl Lenox. Darryl Lenox began his career in stand-up comedy when his then-girlfriend dared him to stop talking about his greatness and go achieve it. He gathered his nerve and all his funny parts together and hit the comedy circuit. He is in Vancouver, back in Vancouver, to perform his one-man show called Blind Ambition at the Vogue Theatre. It is my pleasure to welcome Darryl Lenox to Studio 4 to tell us more. Nice to see you.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
And you're back home, sort of. Well, you like it here.
I love it here. After the divorce in 1994, and I had no place to go, and Canada welcomed me, and I think I've lived here longer than any one place in one continuous time here, and it's just my favorite place in the world. I just love it.
And you had a little apartment on Drake Street or something?
Drake and House, 789 Drake. Apartment 1505.
Really?
Yeah, I love it.
And some fun was had at the Drake apartment, I understand.
Oh, it was just the best. You know what I think I remember most was being able to look out and the mountains and the water and the skyline. It was the best thing that ever happened to me coming to Canada, Fanny.
And did we kick you out of Canada, or what happened?
Well, yes, you did kick me out. A little more delicate way to say it than that, but
yes.
So I was in 2002. They changed immigration laws, and you didn't have to have a work permit anymore because of liquor licenses in the comedy clubs. And so when I came across the border, I would just lie because that's what you're supposed to do at the border. Right?
Of course, you always lie at the border.
The truth only sets you free in the Bible. Not at the border.
You've never bought shoes, have you?
No. And so at any rate, so I'd lie and say I'm just coming to visit a girlfriend or something. I was afraid to say that I had an apartment there. And then in 2005, they'd seen this litany of performances that I'd had in Canada and asked if I was working illegally. And after threatening to put me in jail, I said, yes, I'm working. And so they expelled me for a year. So I lost my apartment, and 11 years of the best memories of my life. And so it was very difficult.
But I understand when you were here, you'd walk by the Vogue Theatre and dream about being on the stage one day or performing there one day.
I'm a manic creative visualization person. I would walk by and I would say, now appearing Darryl Lenox. And I do that with movies. You know how they go, starring Will Smith. I go, Darryl Lenox instead of Will Smith. And so this is the first time it's worked, actually. So I keep trying.
Where were you born?
I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Really? No taxes there?
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know?
No.
Were you funny as a kid?
No, I'm a pretty quiet, introspective kid. But I have a ridiculous imagination, always fantasizing and telling crazy stories. So I hadn't even watched a lot of comedy at all until I got on stage and did it for the first time.
Really?
Yes. I remember after my girlfriend, who changed my life, Margaret Reed, she told me to stop talking and do something. So I went and saw this movie. I don't know if you remember. It's Betrayed, Tom Berenger, Deborah Winger. And I made up a scene in that movie and walked to the comedy club about 3 miles. And I just replayed the scene in my head and talked about it on stage, and people laughed. And after the show, the general manager of the Seattle Comedy Underground said, I think you got something, and I want you to audition for the Seattle Comedy Competition the next night. And I knew I would never do anything else except that.
What was the feeling? Going into the audition, obviously a little nervous, but what is the feeling you get when you're on stage, audience laughing, we hope they're laughing. What's the rush?
That I'm impacting them. I mean, it's not hard to make anybody laugh. You can tell most people a knock-knock joke, and they'll find something funny about it. I guess it's kind of the shared passion and intensity I have about the stuff I'm talking about. Like, if they're getting it, it's great. The silence is, it doesn't sell tickets, but it's what moves people the most.
Have you ever had a fear, a deep fear that people just wouldn't laugh at you and you should stay backstage? Did you have to get over a fear, or were you a bit of a natural?
No, I'm arrogant.
That's always good.
It's arrogant. Why wouldn't they like me? I think I've envisioned that this is going to be a success, so I'm just go out there and do what my brain told me to do. So no, I've never had any fears about whether it was going to work or not work at all.
So you see it. It's they used to call it like inner comedy or inner tennis. Before you begin the show, you see it going well, you being funny, or do you create in your dreams in the night?
Both. Well, as far as the performances go, it's as natural for me as for you to just go, okay, like we were doing the segment, and they're like, oh, the sky camera's coming, and you're like, yeah, and then you're just talking, and now, boom. And that's what I do. I just sit there and quiet, and then I go on stage and I talk. But the inner voice is huge. That thing has gotten me from heaven to hell all at the same time, listening to that thing.
Why do you call the show Blind Ambition?
Well, obviously for the sight reasons, being totally blind in one eye, and then the ambition that I have is I don't know what it is. It's just too much. But tell you the story to sum it up, I thought, was I knew. So I woke up in '97, and the sight in my left eye was gone. And I went to do a doctor's appointment. He said, I think you have a retinal detachment, and you should go and get this checked out immediately. And I've been through that before. And I knew that meant 2-3 months of not working and not being on stage. And later on that evening, I was supposed to be taking a segment on CBC. So I chose not to go to that retinal specialist. I went to tape this stand-up special at Yuck X for CBC. And I guess at the core of it, I thought if I can be broke and unfamous with 2 eyes or successful with 1 eye, I made that choice. And it was dumb.
So now you are a one-eyed success story.
I guess so.
I guess so, but emotionally, and I know you're an emotional man, emotionally, getting over that physical barrier, as you know, when you only have sight in 1 eye, things wobble a bit more, you don't drive as well when you're turning a certain direction,
Sure,
all of that. Was it tough for you?
Because my eyes were so bad, it wasn't as big adjustment as I thought it was going to be. The self-consciousness was embarrassing. The eye losing muscles and atrophying and going crooked, and it tapped into my vanity. But as the right eye started to deteriorate, then that became really uncomfortable, and I just hated admitting that I was weak at anything. I hate because it meant that my dreams weren't going to come true. And
yes. I have a friend who's blind. She's a shot putter.
Really?
Yeah, top athlete. And when she went on a date, she could see a tiny, tiny bit then. And she had to learn to lie.
Yeah.
She didn't want him to know right away. She thought it might destroy the romance. So she said when they were in the restaurant, "What are you having?"
Yeah.
Because she couldn't read the menu.
Yeah.
And he said, "I think chicken fricassee or something." She said, "I love chicken fricassee. I'll have that too."
Yeah.
And it was hard for her to tell him, who she eventually married,
Good for her.
that she had a small problem.
Yeah.
Couldn't see, but thought he was probably swell, sounded good.
Yeah.
So you have said once, and I don't know if you do it in your routine, you can't see 2 feet in front of you, but you can see tomorrow.
Yeah.
Great line.
Well, thank you. That's how I feel. I spend my whole life up 2 inches away from my face to see anything, but because I can't see far at all, little distance, I don't know. When I'm on stage, it's like a screen pops in front of my head, and I can replay every scene or scenario that I've ever seen, and then the words, my eyes turn into a movie screen, and words just pop up, and I have a different level of intuition and stuff that I think it's really helped me a lot. So tomorrow,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
When you do research to write the funny bits, do you study politics, study up on Obama and Bush and Prime Minister Harper and world affairs, or what?
What makes me feel something. If I have an immediate reaction one way or the other, then I know I'm supposed to talk about that. So I completely trust my instincts when it comes to comedy. And so when the George Bush microphone incident, I remember thinking, I got so mad in an instant, and I knew I should talk about this. So I go on stage and just talk about it. And one of the most famous things for me was I was here, and I did a corporate at the Coast Hotel, and I said, literally, the hardest show I've ever done in my life was on a Welfare Wednesday in Kamloops. And a Native Canadian lady screamed at me, she goes, "You're a racist." And I almost started crying on stage because I'd never been called a racist before. It was just embarrassing. And so after the show, I went into the bathroom and cried because I'm a big baby.
Big cry baby.
Yeah. And I cried and because I thought I'd hurt her and she hurt me. And then I got on the SkyTrain and went to Laugh Lines in New Westminster. And I talked it out on stage, and it was the singular bit that changed my career.
Really?
Yes. And
How
so
interesting.
I always trust my instincts in that way.
Mm-hmm.